Are you looking to make a difference in our community? One way to do that is by becoming involved in local government. By signing up for one of the many boards and commissions, you can have a direct impact on the decisions that shape the future of Vallejo. Whether it's advocating for policies that matter to you, improving parks and schools, or planning and developing the future. Your voice can be heard through local government. But it's not just about making a difference. Serving on a board or commission can also be a great opportunity for personal growth and development. You'll have the opportunity to learn new skills, meet new people, and gain valuable experience that can enhance your resume and career. The City of Vallejo currently has several positions available, so there is no question that this is your chance to get involved. Take the first step towards making a positive impact in your community by signing up for a City of Vallejo board or commission today. Be the change you want to see. Apply for a board or commission at cityofvallejo.net or contact city.clerk@cityofvallejo.net for more information.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order here at 6:09 p.m. Thank you. Now we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. All right. Next, we'll go our roll call.
Chair Monroe,
Present.
Vice Chair Garcia,
Present.
Commissioner Harrell,
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez, present, Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Mitchell, absent. You have quorum.
Thank you. Next.
Chair, I don't have a monitor.
We do have one monitor down. Is it just power? Oh, there we go.
Well, it's on now.
Back online. All right, next we'll go to item number 4, First Community Forum. Anyone to address the commission on any matter for which another opportunity to speak is not provided on the agenda and which is within this jurisdiction of the commission to resolve is requested to submit a completed speaker card to the secretary of the commission. When called upon, each speaker should step to the podium, state his or her name and address for the record. The conduct of the community forum shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes, with each speaker limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any in-person speakers at this time or online speakers?
Through the chair, we do not have any members of the public signed up for community forum either in person or online at this current time.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to item number 5, the approval of the agenda. If everybody take a quick glance at the agenda here, and we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Harrell and seconded by Williams. All right, next we'll move right into our presentations. We have a presentation of the Planning Commission policy recommendations related to the existing businesses corridors, City Council referral to share with the EDC and receive feedback on Planning Commission memo. And I see we all have this information in our packet as well. Thank you, Ms. Kristen.
Good evening, Chairman Rowe, members of the commission. Should I go ahead? I just wanted to start off by introducing myself. My name is Kristen Pollitt. I am the Planning and Development Services Director, and I'm also here speaking to you tonight as the Secretary for the Planning Commission. So I don't have any slides to present, but I'm just going to kind of walk through a little bit of the background related to this item, and then I'll give you a high-level overview of the recommendations that are coming forward that we are requesting your feedback on. Just to kind of get started here, on February 24th, 2026, the City Council had made a special referral request requesting that the Planning Commission undertake a focused review of the general plan with respect to the city's designated business corridors and the mixed-use areas. They were specifically asked to look at some high-priority areas, including Sonoma Boulevard, the downtown and waterfront district area, Mare Island, and then also some of the neighborhood corridors, including Tennessee Street, Springs Road, and any other areas nearby. Specifically, the Planning Commission was asked to identify potential opportunities to streamline the development entitlement process, also look at increasing allowable density in commercial and corridor zones, and then they were asked to prepare a formal set of recommendations with input from the Economic Development Commission. So this is why we are here this evening. We started this discussion with the Planning Commission on March 16th of this year. We presented this as basically an individual research assignment. So each commissioner took a look at these different areas, came up with their own ideas and recommendations, and then they submitted a memo for us to pass forward. On May 5th, after receiving, I believe we have a total of 5 memos from 5 different commissioners, we sat down as a whole commission during a public meeting and we reviewed all of the suggestions that were shared. During that meeting, we realized we had a lot of ideas that were brought forth. So we attempted to kind of synthesize that down into the top 5 key priorities that we would include as like the main focus to move forward. So the executive summary sheet that you were given tonight highlights what those 5 key priorities are. I'm just going to touch on them real quickly. The first one was related to expanding the use of some of the existing state streamlining tools. So our commissioners felt that it was important to try to make greater use of some of the existing state laws that are intended to streamline development and hopefully reduce project review timelines. The second priority was related to modernizing the permitting process through a digital portal. So we already are using a digital permit tracking system. However, the suggestion here was really to use a digital system with better real-time tracking, some published KPI metrics, and then also clear decision timeframes to be more transparent with the development community. The third recommendation is about removing parking minimums. This is specifically focused in eliminating parking minimums within a half-mile radius of existing transit stops. This specifically was looked at the downtown waterfront area and then areas close to the ferry terminal. That was like a high priority listed. The fourth item is relating to activating existing economic development financing tools. There seemed to be a strong consensus that the commissioners felt we should launch more EIFDs. I guess they specifically highlighted using the CRIA district, which is a little bit more specific. They also talked about using historic property tax credits, opportunity zone investments, and really leaning on the existing vacant building program and utilizing those fees. The last item that they listed here is related to beautifying major transportation corridors. There was a thought that some of our major corridors, including I-80, Sonoma Boulevard, Tennessee Springs, areas around the downtown and waterfront, could really use some aesthetic enhancements in order to invite people into the community a little bit more. So those are the top 5 issues that they highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and conclude this presentation by just reiterating that we're looking for any feedback that you have. I also want to mention that while we would love to hear your feedback on these top 5 items, we don't need to limit it to just those. There's a lot of content in this packet, so if there's anything else you would like to share your thoughts on, I would welcome that. And that will conclude my presentation.
Thank you so much. That actually was very concise and informative, and definitely appreciated for sure. And just learning more about what you mentioned just in the presentation, just briefly, sounds like a lot of thought was put into this. The one thing that kind of popped up in my head, the only question mark, was kind of understanding the removing parking minimums, but I'll learn a little bit more about that. I'm trying to figure out how's that top 5, but I'll definitely learn a little bit more about that. But if we got any other comments, go ahead.
Yeah,
Commissioner.
the parking, when there's a mandated number of parking spaces across the city based on the occupancy rates, then in a situation where you have very little open land or space for parking, the reduction in the requirement makes the build out or the development of anything more attractive. So it's within, what's the distance? A block and a half or 2 blocks from a
Half a mile.
half mile of a transit center, so the transit center, that means all of downtown almost would be within a half mile. So you could end up with additional housing in that area. There's a couple of buildings that could be torn down and put new housing up, would be nice.
Vice Chair Garcia?
Yeah, I have several questions actually, but my first question is a more practical, logistical one. What exactly are we informing? What decisions are going to be made with this packet? I think I'm a little lost, and given that none of us knew that this item was going to appear on our agenda until we received the packet, or it was mentioned at the Planning Commission, I would really appreciate a little bit more context as to where we fit into this process.
Yeah, that's a great question. I will just let you know that, as I mentioned earlier, this was a special referral request that was sent from the City Council, and I think we have someone from the council available if you have questions on that. These are a little bit unusual, I guess. We don't get them very often, but I believe the thought behind it was that there was a desire to get input from the planning commissioners who have some familiarity and expertise related to, planning and zoning and permitting issues. Just kind of get their perspective and their thoughts on ways we could do more to increase development, I guess, in the city. So, and the thought was that we should have this commission weigh in on those ideas as well. So I think it's a little bit informal from that standpoint. The next steps, I believe, are going to be just sharing this full packet along with any additional comments that your commission, the Economic Development Commission, has to the council, just so they can kind of have that information as they consider other policies related to planning moving forward.
Because I think the thing that I'd like to say, I think just broadly to everyone in the room, is that I would appreciate, since the Planning Commission got from February, March, April, May, June, 5 months to digest, I think, this information and provide some set of recommendations, that I think that this is a great introduction, and I appreciate, I think, the brevity, I think that it's coming to us, but I think that given the priority of economic development in the city, I think we need to take careful consideration to what's in here. There are a lot of implications and no timelines and a lot of money on the table that's mentioned in this packet. And I, frankly, myself would not feel comfortable providing a recommendation or advisement with reading one packet and having one meeting. I can't imagine that we could discuss 71 pages of items in a reasonable amount of time this evening if we ever wanted to go home and go to sleep.
If I could just jump in with one additional piece of information that
Sure.
I forgot to share earlier. The original referral request there was a timeline requested within which the information would be brought back. So the request was made on February 24th. The council member requested to have information brought back within 75 days, which would have been June 1st. So the Planning Commission was kind of barely able to get all of their recommendations
Sure.
together before that deadline. So that's kind of the reason as to why we're at where we're at.
Totally understood. We have certainly had, I think, that share of challenges here, but I would politely request, I think, given the significance of a lot of the information that's in this packet, if we're looking for legitimate recommendations from the body, I would really urge my colleagues, and I think we should have a fruitful discussion tonight, but I would really encourage us to come back with something in writing in response to, again, a lot of really good information and a lot of really interesting information, but I think the import of it shouldn't be waived, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much pressure tonight, but the council member did step up, and I want to see if he had anything to add to that real quick, and then we can get to Commissioner Williams as well.
Yes, I can shed a little bit of light. So the actual specific request that came from your council liaison, Councilmember Matias, because he and I have actually been in conversations of we're taking the dual-pronged approach where planning along with economic development, especially with our focus on economic development this year. So we had the vision that the Planning Commission, along with the economic development, could have conversations, start to have ideas of how to, where the Planning Commission starts with the land use and identifying what buildings and uses of types of buildings can go in certain areas, to where the economic development can provide their expertise and insight of maybe stimulating some other ideas for some of those areas, to where that may help us reevaluate some of the planning land use issues. So that's just the start of the conversation. And yes, I think we were pretty aggressive with some of the timelines that we're kind of putting in there. But once again, this is with the concept of starting a conversation, at least where we can further advance it to where it is a dual approach, to where the Planning Commission and the economic development can potentially have like-minded goals, to where they may be overlapping and be able to come to some sort of concepts or ideas from both of your expertise, the planning along with the economic development, to see if there's some ideas that can be co-mingled together to come up with something to move forward with. So that was the general concept or idea that Councilmember Matias and I started this conversation a while ago, and then it's a matter of we as a council are kind of pressing ourselves to move a lot of these ideas and thoughts forward, and that's where we're once again just pushing the conversation to move forward, and hopefully that gives you a little better understanding of it, because there's a lot of technicalities from both sides, from both commissions, to be able to see how do they come together for us to kind of have both commissions, and it actually, some of the contrast, or some of the difficulties were, how do we get both commissioners to even talk to each other? And it comes to some parliamentary procedure issues of how do we get that from our Brown Act. So this is where part of that, where this is kind of slowed a little bit longer than we would like, but this is where, once again, we're just starting that conversation, and when we get to the logisticals of how do we get past some of the barriers or challenges, then maybe we can have a more robust, where maybe similar to how the City Council and the Planning Commission have had a joint meeting before. Maybe this is something where the City Council and the Economic Development Commission can potentially have a joint meeting in the future. But it's that type of forward type of thinking that's out of the box, so to say, that we want to start having some of those conversations.
Vice Chair Garcia, you got anything else to add?
Commissioner Williams, I think, has been
Go
in
ahead,
queue.
Commissioner Williams.
Sure. Well, thank you. I think it sounds really exciting, these topics. And I could dig into the details right now, but in the interest of maybe we'll do that later. My main question is, could you describe more the Community Revitalization and Investment Authority and the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District tools? So I'm not familiar with those.
I'm probably not the expert on these tools either. I don't know if maybe Brad Paul has any input on that.
Well, it was the acronym CRAA and EIFD, and I just looked those up, so.
Well, the EIFD is an Enhanced Infrastructure Assessment. I think that's like a reduced version of the redevelopment agency tax incentives.
What state law currently allows what used to be redevelopment.
Okay.
So in the old days, redevelopment could take the increment all of it. Now you have to go.
Is your mic on?
I don't think we can hear. Oh, you're on green. You have to go to red.
It's got to be red.
He's pushing the right button.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. I pushed it a couple times. The Economic Infrastructure Financing District is the modern version of redevelopment. One of the differences, in the old days, you did redevelopment, you locked in the value of a district, and then the increment after that would all go to the city to do economic development work, to do infrastructure work, to encourage new businesses. Now you have to take out the school district's money, the county's money. There's a whole bunch of things that come out first, so the amount of increment is less than it used to be under redevelopment. That's one of the major differences. And I don't know exactly what the other one, if somebody told me what what is it called?
They have them listed on page 8 and
CRIA.
9. It looks like they have a
I could probably tell you what it
glossary.
was if I knew what the acronym meant.
Say Community
pages 8 and
Revitalization
9.
Plan.
Community Revitalization and Investment Authority.
I think I think again, that's similar to what the redevelopment agency used to be. It's a modern version of that, which has many more restrictions than the traditional redevelopment agency had. And as you may remember, redevelopment agencies, and I started my career fighting them at home where I grew up and in San Francisco, because they would just roll over neighborhoods, tear down landmarks, kick out poor people and artists. But toward the end, when I was working in the city of San Francisco, 50% of the money generated by redevelopment went into affordable housing. The state required a minimum of 25 and 50% of San Francisco's. So by then, it was actually a pretty good tool for doing good things. And you may remember Jerry Brown was the one who decided we should get rid of it. And in part, to be fair to him as governor, there were places using to build football stadiums when the owners were billionaires. So I think I wish there'd been more of a nuanced approach to it than just get rid of it, but that was the reason I think they got rid of it when they did. And this is the newer, gentler version of redevelopment that doesn't generate as much resources as the old one did.
Thank you.
Got you, Commissioner Harrell.
Yeah, this question would go to Councilmember Matulak. He might be able to assist us with this. You know, in my opinion, certainly the collaboration of two different commissions in a singular meeting, even if we need to notice said meeting, is pretty much the only way that we should be having these discussions. I think that there's nuances and questions that can be answered instantly from one group to the other, as opposed to this, I'll call it a formal process, as opposed to just drawn out process. Review these 71 pages of documentation, give us your opinion about it. Well, we don't know where it started from, so we don't know really, we see what the objective is of where it might be going. But how's it work? I mean, certainly, staff has supported the permitting process with timelines and, 60, 90, and 120 days or something of that nature in there, which is a significant improvement in the adaptation of a digital technology. However, I'm real curious as to what permits will take 60 days, what permits will take 90 days, so that there's a projection for a developer or for a homeowner or anybody else, because it's just broad and ambiguous to give us numbers without specific objectives within that timeline. So, two-part question, as you can see. And do I want me to reframe it?
No, I think I got it. And just to give you part of the other background is that the fact that we from a staff and council and a staff perspective of figuring out how to get two commissions to get together, that's something that we were still trying to figure out. How do we legally be able to do that? And I think we're still trying to figure that out to how, and so I've actually been the one pushing our planning commission to kind of come up with ideas to kind of start the ball rolling, and that's where the planning commission had the first crack at the ball to kind of provide the comment to where this is the next step of it. And so it's not the most efficient and effective way, and I agree that if both commissions could have talked together to answer questions right away, that would have been the most efficient way. But the fact that we weren't sure if that was able to be done that way, that's where I just pushed our planning commission. Let's just move it forward and start the ball rolling, and then we'll get it figured out at some point, so to say. So, but from a permit timeline stand, so that's a technical question from our internal to where that's something that obviously our planning department would speak to, and some of that comes to our staffing abilities and the number of permits that come in at a certain time. So that's some of those logistical challenges from that. But from an economic development standpoint, I think the Planning Commission can address the permitting timeline standframe, but you can address maybe the business, any timelines or any ideas from the economic development side regarding business licenses or permitting from that standpoint. And that's where that collaborative conversation may be able to be coalesced together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question, still.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to say thank you. First of all, I think my questions are really about getting some clarity around like where we play a role, how we can best, I think, support this process. But I will say I'm really appreciative that I think there's some effort being made to break down some of those silos, even if it could be done in parallel without meeting requirements and other things. All that said, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and actually talk to some of the substance that was in, I think, the packet. I will make a couple of statements, and then I think if these are areas that we want to postpone for further discussion, or if we would like to, and to build some more concrete recommendations, we can do so. I was really interested in CREA, or CRIA, or however you would refer to it. I think the most interesting thing to me about that is it seemed like a very long-term strategy to supplant some of the, we'll say, divestment resulting from the lack of redevelopment as a program and a resource here to the city. My question is that in our economic development strategy, my understanding is that the department needs about $1 million to function, to build out towards the plan. And we have 5 FTE with 1 vacancy, if I remember correctly. I don't know if that's still true. And so I'm wondering how this closes that gap, because there's a lot of grants that are mentioned and listed here that we're going to go for, some in collaboration with other departments, some are not. And I think one of the things, particularly as the commission stands, is I want to know, how is this going to supplant that gap? Because there's clearly a gap between what's actually happening. We have a citywide deficit, obviously, and where is this? Where are those investments taking place? So that's the first, I think, question that I have. The second question, more specific to CREA, is what is our plan for a short-term and mid-term financial stack so that our city is actually garnering revenue, not just 10 or 12 or 13 years from now, because frankly, I'll just be honest, I don't think we can wait. So I would say that is my biggest question, I think, resulting from this. And I don't know if I didn't read all 71 pages in grave detail, but I think that was one of the questions that I was left with after reviewing this. And then the other question that I had many, I've got a whole list of them, but the other question that I had here is that it also seems to me that, obviously Mare Island is a hot spot that we talk about. We talk about Sonoma Boulevard, Tennessee is mentioned here. But, and this may be my bias, living in District 3, I'll just share this out loud. But I will say that there's a lot of high-income earners in that district and living on the east side of Vallejo, and there's very little commercial activity happening there. And what I didn't really see here is a strategy to capture any of that leaking capital, because there's only really, I don't know, outside of the Safeway that's there's one other commercial district that's largely vacant, or commercial strip in District 3, and I didn't really see anything that addresses how are we going to actually tap into the wealth that's here. I talked to my neighbors. They don't shop here. They don't even know there's a wine bar and a cheese shop, and I feel like a rolling commercial every time I talk to my neighbors, about you need to go downtown, you need to go to the village, you need to go here, and blah, blah, blah. I guess it's also part of being on the Economic Development Commission. But I am really, really curious to know how we're going to activate the capital that already exists in this city and have those folks actually reinvest. So I would say I'll leave that as 3 focus areas. Like I said, this team knows I have no shortage of questions ever, so I'll rest there and would love to hear if there's any answers to that, immediate reactions. Oh, and actually one more thing, because I do spend a lot of time in digital services. I would plea and beg with us that we pick a more modern solution than a portal for permitting. So I'll leave it at that. I'll rest my case and send it over to my colleagues.
Commissioner Hurrell?
Yeah, looking through the documents is a quick scan. I didn't read every page. But one of the things I recognize is that the item 8F, SR 37 Sonoma Boulevard, tourism spine. The word spine works so well because it goes around the backside of the city. Yeah, the water's there, but it's the backside of the city. The greatest travel volume that we have of cars and the greatest influence we have is along Highway 80. So pulling people off of 80 into the city for wherever it might be, whether it be on the east side of the freeway or the west side, should be a high priority. So I'm just curious as to why is Sonoma Boulevard singled out, other than Caltrans is doing their work on it, et cetera. So it's going to be a nice, prettier street. But why are we looking at that as a objective, first objective, when there's far fewer businesses within proximity of Sonoma than there are within proximity of 80? Just a question there. I'll leave that question out there, and because I don't know if any of these items can be addressed, shall we say. But if it's a question, if you can answer that one, that would be great.
I'm not sure if I have a direct answer for that, but also just so let me give you a timeline of this. So this came in front of the Planning Commission in February. And then, so let's keep in mind, now we have new leadership in place. We have Harry Black on board right now that has an established economic development background from his previous city manager positions. And now with Mr. Brad Paul on board, so now we have new leadership with new ideas, new blood, basically, to kind of come up with kind of the outside the box thinking versus what we're used to thinking and how we're thinking in Vallejo. So we're kind of looking to them as kind of like the spearhead from using their outside Vallejo experiences to see how do we tap that into Vallejo to stimulate some of theirs. And your specific question of the Highway 80 versus how do we get more business otherwhere, that's the perfect question to ask of our planning commission to identify, because obviously Sonoma Boulevard, that's our existing central corridor right now. So that's what we have as a planning commission to kind of look at right now. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking at other places. So that's the perfect question to be asking of our planning commission. So instead of looking at this central corridor, can we look at other places of how to stimulate that from a land use and a planning commission standpoint of how to bring more economic development? So that's the perfect, and that's my reason of why the collaboration between the planning commission and economic development would be ideal for how we are looking to advance a lot of our economic development, because that is the exact type of question that we need to be looking at from planning commission of how do we stimulate economic development elsewhere versus the central corridor or some of these areas we currently have, because those are existing right now. So that's what we as planning commissioners look at. That's how we do it. But then we need to look outside the box, and that's where your question comes perfectly into that conversation.
Commissioner Williams?
Following up on that, I would say Sonoma Boulevard and Interstate 80 are a yes and situation. Like Sonoma, they would both have different strategies. On Sonoma, you can pull into a parking lot and go into the business. On Interstate 80, you have to get off at an exit, and people are moving really fast, and it's not, yeah. So, I mean, maybe 80 has enhanced exits and on-ramps, or different signage, or better landscaping, or better maintenance of landscaping, or things like that. It's going to be a different strategy for that versus what the strategy is for Sonoma. So I would say maybe it could be added, or yeah.
As you guys mentioned those things, I think about when you're driving into Vallejo, coming off the Carquinez Bridge, and they say that other side of the freeway is supposed to be the better side. That's what I hear. I mean, I've always lived on Kentucky Street for the longest, but now I live over there on Oakwood now, so I'm over there a little bit more. And, the visibility when you're looking at the businesses along that freeway, it is just very unattractive. Even Safeway can do a better job of making that more appealing so people can feel more comfortable even going to that Safeway. I've noticed that gate and all sorts of things that just, little things that can kind of make the community maybe feel more safe or even more proud about the business. But that is probably a different take. I mean, I haven't really thought about that. Kind of how do you attract more businesses in those areas, or even with this revitalization plan, how do we revitalize those areas? Because I'm thinking of, it's like motels and stuff kind of right there, but there's also along right there next to the McDonald's, what is that, Magazine Street, that giant building or lot that's just empty as well. There's all sorts of, resources, and it seems like a lot of space in Vallejo that we can, really improve on making, more appealing, especially for people that's driving through Vallejo, that we get that kind of, that notion that we're that drive-by city that everybody just drives through to get to Sac or Reno or whatever, or Fairfield. So, that's a good point. I'm not sure how you tackle something like that without like Caltrans and every other agency, but, that's definitely a good point. Commissioner Rowe, go ahead.
As we talk about this, you got the planning, and that's for future. And I have said for many years that we have to attack low-hanging fruit to change the mindset and attitude of the consumers, the citizens of the community. And we look at these big projects and these long-range plans as opposed to how do we attack where they are. If you got a house that the paint is peeling off, it's not a very attractive house to go into if you're invited over there, right? If we have a city where the common mediums, and this goes into public works, and it's just a matter of how do you facilitate it, and I have a different idea I'll put on the table. If we deal with the overgrown weeds in the mediums of our thoroughfares, it's disgusting. If Caltrans cannot maintain and upkeep the freeways equal to what they do in Dixon, Fairfield, Vacaville, etc., then we have a problem. And that problem goes into our legal department, who should be, and I guess they have to have guidance by city council, but we should be holding them accountable because they damn sure hold us accountable at $8.50 coming across the bridge 1 or 2 times a day. So I'm just kind of perplexed. It's a perplexing situation, and these are cross-commission issues for addressing, but I need to put it out there on the record that we need to hold businesses accountable for the way the front of their streets look. That's economic development. It's a turnoff to drive by a lot that's filled with weeds. If it's property that a realtor is in charge of because it's being sold and the weeds are overgrown, that realtor needs to be held responsible for that property. We need to hold Caltrans accountable, as I gave the example. We should be treated with equity in a way that weeds and everything. If I go up 780, 80 to 780, it's a whirlwind of garbage. When I head into Benicia, when I get to the Benicia line, right after the Glen Cove exit, nice, clean. No excuse as far as I'm concerned. So we have to engage Public Works, I guess, and find out if they can assist us. We should engage at the legal if they can assist us. And council will have to carry the ball on giving direction. We can't.
Commissioner Williams.
Just one more thing, and maybe it's already in there, but I think it's really important to make it as accessible as possible to real estate investors, developers, brokers, et cetera, to know what our opportunity sites are. And in other cities, sometimes they have an inventory on their website, and it doesn't have to be every single vacant piece or vacant building. And yeah, in the city, it just needs to be like maybe with the top 10 that the city's really interested in, or that we feel are the catalyst. Like if something goes in there, then other stuff will happen. I call that a catalyst site. So, I mean, it could just be well, you know better, Commissioner Garcia, but like the equivalent of a spreadsheet, or it could be sexy with photos, it could have link. I mean, it could be anything, but just to have something that we have, and then maybe it gets updated quarterly or something like that.
And actually, just kind of following up on what you guys are talking about, it really is tying into the executive summary number 5. That giant purple building right across the street from the Loop. If y'all don't do something about that building, we got Costco coming in now. You can actually see the transformation of Vallejo. Beautiful things are happening. You got this Costco coming in. Yeah, we lost Safeway. That's horrible. Hopefully we can get something else in there. We got a brand new In-N-Out burger. We got a brand new Loop. If y'all don't do something about that, you're going to derail that whole area, because that really is the last ugly strip of that. What is that, Redwood? Redwood. Yeah, Redwood. I mean, whatever needs to be done has to be done, because that's low-hanging fruit. That's talking about 95%. If I'm envisioning this correctly, you know, once this Costco's done and this beautiful new residential and this shopping center or whatever, everything is going to be there, and then we get out of there and all we get to see is this giant purple building when we get off the freeway every single time, we going to be so mad. I mean, I already been here 10 years and been seeing that building. I don't know what's going on. But there needs to be some major pressure applied, because what Commissioner Williams is talking about is an opportunity zone. There's an opportunity for a real developer, somebody that wants to actually invest in the city of Vallejo, to take advantage of a brand new gas station across the street, a brand new community coming across the street, a brand new Costco. Whoever that owner is totally derailing our city because whatever, greed or whatever the issue may be. Financial, legal, whatever it may be, it needs to be resolved, because that's low-hanging fruit right there. That's one section of our city that's actually getting some investment, some development, and actually we're going to need to finish the job by taking care of that, because I know it was a long battle to even get that property, to even get to, you know, where we are today with the development of the Costco and everything. So that's something that maybe we need to bring some attention to with the Planning Commission on how do we address that property, because right now it's still just being used by unsolicited vendors, or what I'm not even sure what to call them. They're vendors that come out there and they sell their product. Maybe they got permission from the owner, maybe they don't. But if they do have permission from the owner, that's obviously somebody communicating with these folks. And something just needs to be addressed. I mean, it's too much development going on in that area for the city to just ignore that and let that spot continue to be an eyesore for the next 10, 20 years. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I think that concludes it. Thank you so much. Oh, we do, Vice Chair.
I just wanted to conclude and make a proposal in order to actually provide a response to, I think, the request that's being made. I'd like to suggest, I don't know if anybody would like to work on this. I'm happy to co-write or draft something for our review for the next commission meeting that we can share either back with the Planning Commission, Director, we can share it back with you. So that way we have something that's tangible and specifically addresses the items in this packet.
Yeah, I think me and you can probably work on something like that or talk about it. Our next meeting will be in September, so we'll have some time to kind of definitely discuss everything.
I'll just jump in. I think that would be helpful. I think it would be useful. I will say I'll probably share what we have so far with the council informally, just to make sure they know, that we're actively working on this. And I just wanted to kind of remind everyone that the packet in front of you tonight is, there's 5 separate memos from individual commissioners.
Right.
So this is just their own thoughts on things.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's value in kind of coming together and maybe talking about it as a group, and maybe a joint meeting or something could be arranged. So
Great.
Yeah, happy to continue the conversation.
Not that, Chair, I would not want to work with you, but I also know Commissioner Williams, you have a ton of experience in many of the things in here. I don't have to be the person to draft. I am not trying to chomp at the bit to draft this myself, candidly. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I read this packet and I'm just I feel like this is your job, basically. Your career is written in here.
Yeah, I'd be glad to work on it, but I don't want to be in charge of drafting it, but I could work with you or whomever. Yeah, collaborate, yeah.
We'll collaborate.
I'm looking at the attorney because that would be 3 of us.
Oh, right. Got it.
Yes, so I'm
Somehow
thinking.
we will.
Well, you're technically a 7-member body, though you do have a vacant position at the moment. You're a 7-member body. A quorum is actually 4, not 3, so you could do that. Would not be an official subcommittee because that's not on the agenda and you can't vote on it. But loosely, you could get together and talk about it, and then bring back whatever you want to share with the full commission.
Great, just
So
confirm.
3 of us could get together.
3 of you could.
Okay.
Great, just wanted to confirm your blessings. All
You're
right.
good.
There could have been 3 PW, planning and 3 of this commission before now.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. We appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us and answering all those questions.
Yes, thank you for
And
having
hopefully
me.
we got some good feedback for you. Yes, Commissioner Harrell.
I had mentioned that as I was on my diatribe, and this isn't for you, and stop rolling your eyes. As I was making my statement, I mentioned about holding Caltrans accountable, and dealing with the landscape issues, et cetera. Is there a reason that we don't operate a adopt a street program within the city, where a business may adopt the street and take care of the median, et cetera, or why we don't use, other assistance that might come at virtually no cost to us?
Are you addressing that to me?
Please, please. Well, yeah, okay, to you it would be, is there some legal preclusion for us implementing such a thing if we got that ball rolling?
Without looking at it, other than liability if volunteers are going to be out there actually doing work, them getting hit by a car or injured somehow, there isn't one I can think of. If there's a staff member who, wants to look at this from the Economic Development Department, and I have no qualms about looking at the liability issues and talking to Risk about it, that would be kind of the limits of our involvement, but I'm happy to do that.
But would it be someone from this, or would it be better to be someone from, well, there is no Public Works Commission.
There's not.
So the concept would have to go through Public Works anyway, would it not?
Well, the
Or should
concept,
it?
I think, probably starts, if it's not going back to the council for some look,
Yeah.
it would normally start with the city manager.
Okay.
Risk, and I would look at the, sort of, is it insurable? What kind of risks are there? And then that would go forward as advice to whoever it would be recommending it.
Yeah, and part of my reason for putting that out there is that we see gatherings of citizens that want to clean up spaces and areas when they are organized, when they're tasked and it's organized. And it's a workforce that we could not possibly afford. Otherwise, it would have been clean and it wouldn't have to deal with it. So it's, I hate to use the word an exploitation of, but it's utilize that workforce of volunteers that actually would have already bought in to the idea that Vallejo is on the rise. Everything that we see is improving, at least from my perspective.
Well, we do have our volunteer coordinator, who
Okay.
it is a position within the
Sheila?
city manager's, Shelley.
Shelley,
It's
sorry.
a position within the city manager's office, and that may be, one place to start, or in asking the city manager.
Okay.
But that's different than what you originally said, which is like adopt a highway or adopt a local street. And just to go back to the Caltrans issue for a minute, because
Oh, good.
while I'm talking, we do have, so Caltrans does have a government liaison position that does work with us. It isn't fast, but it isn't non-existent, if that gives you any. It's not non-existent. They do.
know.
They do have that position. He does do a good job of, coordinating. So by and large, if there's something there that is code enforcement type related, that is somebody we can reach out to for some, I would call it more voluntary participation, but certainly they're relatively responsive. Maybe a little slow, but relatively responsive.
But is landscape, just as a question, is landscaping a part of, on the highway and byways, is that a code enforcement? I don't know that they're violating any code because they have excess foliage or dried foliage.
So again, depends on where or what, but we usually coordinate through those departments to talk to the governmental liaison.
Okay.
So it's just,
Good.
it's a voluntary symbiotic relationship that we try to lean into whenever we can. How about that as an answer?
Well, we got to convince them that they're a part of the solution. I won't say they're the problem. They're a part of the solution, and we need their help solving this challenge.
And they have periodically responded when they have encampments or other things on their property, and we reach out. There
I've
have,
seen that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's not a non-existent relationship. It does exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And the second part of that was, as we talk about signage along in Sonoma, I saw there was visitor signs that are brown that we can apply to the state to do, et cetera. Fairfield had quite a to-do on the 4th, I guess it was, the 3rd or the 4th, and they unveiled their sign, the city sign that's on, I forgot what street it's on. But they had that redone, and they remounted it. I'm not suggesting that we should have such a thing, but we have no welcome or no notification to people as they come off that bridge. This is Vallejo. You know, as they come down Highway 80, this is Vallejo. Welcome to Vallejo. Whatever the slogan that the staff comes up with or whatever, we don't have the mistletoe on the front porch, right? We're not giving it the kind of, we're not dressing it up. We're not dressing it up. So it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I think that that's a critical component from the marketing standpoint of development. We have to market it, and I think our professionals can assist me with this. We have to market ourselves as being successful and on the rise. If we don't do that through multiple channels, waving in the dark, the ship is running but can't see it. You know, we have to do it. So is that not a fair assessment, our director?
No, I mean, we're talking about, Yvette is actually working with me on marketing, sort of ideas about marketing strategies.
Good.
The thing about marketing I've learned in my time here is that there are stories out there about your community, whether it's a neighborhood, a city, a state, and those stories are very, very compelling, especially if they get repeated over and over again on social media. And so our job, I think, is to tell positive stories, and there's lots of them. But it means doing it on social media, it means doing it through signage, but it also means just talking to people. And, you know, I think you know that I'm moving here. I'm actually moving on Saturday. And in the process of telling our friends why we think it's a great idea for us to move, we've convinced 3 of our friends to move to Vallejo. 2 of them are 2 of the most successful documentary filmmakers in LA. They are sick of their neighborhood of Silver Lake because it's become, they live in a beautiful craftsman cottage, and people around them are tearing those down to build McMansions that they're putting out on Airbnb. Their neighborhood, in their minds, has been destroyed. They came to visit us, they walked around, we had lunch, I gave them a tour downtown. They put an offer in on a house yesterday. And one of the things they're really interested in doing is working with the Empress Theater to put together some documentary film festivals. It turns out there's actually films going on tonight at the Empress Theater. The Empress Theater is totally turned around. It used to be the cafe, the Marquee Club was open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's open 7 days a week now with a full restaurant. So where they used to have hors d'oeuvres and liquor or drinks, they have full meals, they have a huge kitchen. So they're 7 days a week, and we just need to tell that story. And I'm going to be going down there a couple of nights a week once I'm here on Saturday. But and one of our best friends who lives in my own neighborhood in Bellarmine Keys, we see her all the time. When she heard we were moving, she said, well, maybe I should think about that. She's planning to sell her house and move here. So the story is the most powerful thing we have to tell. And we can all tell it. We can tell it on media, social media, and in newsprint, wherever you want to tell it. But people have these weird ideas of what Vallejo is. And these are based on bad stories they read 10, 15 years ago. We have Channel 2 coming here, I think, in the next few days to spend a whole morning here doing a live broadcast from downtown, from small businesses here, from Mare Island, from Six Flags. That's going to go out to thousands of people who are going to see Vallejo in a much different light. So I think marketing, we tend to think of marketing as we hire somebody who does up a marketing plan and they implement it. Every day when we talk to people, we can market Vallejo. We can market our neighborhoods, we can market the streets we shop on, whether it's Springs Road or Tennessee or whatever. And I can't wait to go to that wine bar that I keep hearing about in Tennessee. And Nolungo Connolly, who's the assistant city manager, said, I went in there and it blew me away. I thought I was like in New York or somewhere. It's this beautiful wine bar. So we just need to go out and do those things, but we have to do it not just in the downtown, we have to do it in every neighborhood in the city. And I think we have been focused mostly on downtown because we've talked about piloting ideas here. But once we pilot those ideas, we need to go out into the neighborhoods. And your banner program is a perfect example of that. Because of what you did a couple of meetings ago, and you added some other budget items, you have enough banners now, not just to do the downtown, to do Georgia Street, but to really try a few blocks in different neighborhoods. And I believe, I just heard that one of the shopping malls out on Spring Street is about to redo their whole shopping mall, sort of redesign it. And I bet we could go to them and say, look, if we do 10 banners, would you do 10 banners advertising the stores and your new opening? And if we go to the colleges, we could probably get them. We'll do 10 banners on Springs Road. We'll do 10 banners on Tennessee. Would you do 10 that say Vallejo, a college town? Because no one if you go down right now to Georgia and Sonoma, and you look up on the corner, sort of, if you're walking up from downtown, on the right across the street, there is a huge billboard that says Touro University, a college town. That's how you change the story about Vallejo. And I think your banner program is a great way to start that.
Yes. Thank you. I was just, as you guys were talking about all this, I was just thinking about, what Vice Chair Garcia was talking about is like kind of unlocking that monetizing those areas like Glen Cove. My dad lives over on North Regatta or South Regatta, and I almost ran out of gas over there the other day, and I'm like, my God, where's the gas station? And you guys don't have a gas station. I'm like, what is going on over here? They got all this money over here, and we ain't got a gas station? This is nuts. But you definitely need a gas station over there, man. Something, but there's more money to get over there, like Vice Chair was saying, for sure. But I don't know. There's resources that we need. Hey man, I was on a break job. I was out there, but Chris, you're all good. We appreciate you, and you've been excellent. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 7, guys. That's the report of the committee, board / secretary. Item A.
Good evening, Commission.
Yes.
So let me start with first the agenda, the update on the vacancies. So good news, we have, the city clerk's office has received sufficient applications. As a matter of fact, 10 applications have been received, and they are scheduled to be interviewed on July 16th. So that's the most that I've heard in a while. 10 applications and 10 people being interviewed. They will be interviewed by Vice Mayor Matulek and Council Member Matias, all on the same day. So and then I believe that the appointments are scheduled for August 4th. So you should be having some new commissioners. My understanding is that 2 out of 3 of those that are expiring resubmitted. So you might be getting two of us back on. If not, maybe somebody new. What else was I going to tell you? You had asked the question about being part of that process and being able to provide some recommendations to council. This is a process that has been established and utilized quite some time. It's a very tight process, and the initial response that I received is that it's difficult because your input would generate public record, and then that creates some legalities. I'll defer to our attorney if she has something to add on that regard, but it's not as simple as you think.
So I did not weigh in on this, so I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. But with regard to the question of changing the process, so there's a council-bound process for appointments to boards and commissions. And so the question of whether that process has a change place in it is a question for the city council. We don't run parallel processes where there is a process. That doesn't mean that process can't be modified, or that the council might want to modify that process for a whole host of reasons. There's been some discussion about that. They modified it a little bit last year. Last year? I'm getting a yes. Last year. They run together those years. So it isn't cast in absolute stone. So I just wanted to say there is a process, it's the process they use, but it is subject to their modification, and if they think that's a good idea, then they could potentially make such a modification.
Commissioner Harrell?
Would there be any legal reason that up to 3 members, well, the council would have to approve this, but as a part of the process, up to 3 members of the commission could be present during the interview process and not ask questions, just observing, and then share what their opinion is with the council members that are carrying out the interviews?
You mean like orally, after listening?
Pardon me?
I'm assuming you mean, could you orally give input after listening?
Yeah.
You know, I'd have to think about that a little bit and look at the process, but happy to. Certainly nothing prevents you from listening, right? Those are public meetings and nothing prevents you from listening. So I think Yvette said there's one coming up on the 10th?
August 5th or so.
No, what did you say, August something? Thank you. That was,
July 16th at
my bad.
6:15 PM.
I wouldn't.
okay. So on July 16th, I think you could go ahead and listen. I think sometimes some of the issues come around with regard to, I'll say applicants having feelings or concerns that could potentially come up. So I would want to kind of look at that, talk to the city clerk, and take a deeper dive. But attending, and then if none of that, if council wants that input, they could certainly choose to request it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I had another update. Oh, gosh, okay. Your ad hoc subcommittees, just, you wanted an update on those. And what I have is that your ad hoc subcommittee for business retention and expansion, focusing on Sonoma Boulevard Business Cluster and that one is expiring October 7th, 2026. So there's just one meeting left that you have in September. Should that committee bring any updates, recommendations, what have you, that's the timeline for that subcommittee. And the other one, which I can't find my paper right now, oh, there it is. The other one is your ad hoc subcommittee for civic innovation and technology. And that one, you have some time. That one rolls through March 10th, 2027. So those are your only subcommittees at the moment. However, let's see, that one, the one that goes through March, my understanding is that Commissioner Gonzalez was on that one. If I'm not mistaken, I can double check this, but in which case we will probably, you can add a different member. And Commissioner Monroe, if you don't get reappointed, you're probably going to be able to switch those members. We can revisit.
I was actually going to say, I think it is Commissioner Mitchell, myself, and
Yes.
Chairman Rowe on the Civic Innovation and Technology Subcommittee.
Yeah, Mitchell. Yeah, that one's supposed to be Mitchell. I remember you had mentioned something to me that we
Okay,
was
and
supposed to
the
fix it.
Sonoma Boulevard, was that the Gonzalez then?
No, that's Monroe, Mitchell, and Williams.
Okay, sorry about that.
No
And
problem.
thank you for the
You actually
clarification.
mentioned it to me kind of offline. or
Okay,
something.
so
We
then
can-
it would be only Monroe. That is question mark. That's all I have.
Got you. If we got a status update of the downtown lighting project, Vice Chair Garcia, any update at this moment?
I don't want to put the secretary on the spot. I feel like the secretary has more of an update than I do. And would also maybe take this moment to thank the secretary and also thank Commissioner Mitchell, who's not here, who's done a whole lot of legwork, from what I understand, to make sure that we met all our timelines, deadlines, et cetera, so that we could let there be light.
Let there be light, like that. Yes, so we were running against the clock on these expenditures, as you well know. As soon as you took action, we had to establish POs. We actually just made it the day of. And the way that we were able to set this up is with Public Works. Let's see. And so the feedback that they gave us was that the proposal that you had for $7,000 and change wasn't sufficient to install a new set of lights on any street, especially when you are needing to install poles, because you can't attach this to property that is not owned by the city, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Most of those projects cost in the range of $20,000 to $30,000 just for one string. So we talked about some ideas where the criteria to improve public safety in the downtown and light downtown was feasible. And what they proposed was adding lighting to the Georgia Street Park. On Georgia Street, there's a project that needs a little bit more funding. So with the EDC 7,000 and change, they can actually install some lighting, because that's a project that belongs to the city on city-owned parcel. So Commissioner Mitchell was available the day of. She's in the subcommittee to walk, as it was proposed, one of your committee members to walk with Public Works and try to land at something. So that's what's happening. They appreciate the contribution, and we'll be purchasing the materials to light up that parcel.
Excellent, excellent. Shout out Commissioner Mitchell. All right, do we have an update on any new businesses or storefronts downtown?
As part of a tour I did this afternoon with someone who runs an organization down in Monterey that is really involved in advanced air mobility and might be able to bring some ideas about workforce development and actually production of these eVTOL aircraft. We took him on a tour, and Annette Taylor from our office went walking down Virginia, Marin, Georgia. And we noticed there's on the corner of Marin and Georgia, there's a yarn shop there. And then there's a vacant storefront, and then next to it is the Alibi bookstore. Today, for the first time, I saw signs in that there's going to be a coffee shop there, probably very early next year, but there's signs now. There's beautiful white curtains, says coming soon, the name of the coffee shop. So that's new. And if you go to the end of Marin and take a left on Georgia, I think it's 3 storefronts up. It's an old real estate office. There's signs that say it's going to become the Georgia Sports Bar. And so that's going on. And then if you know across the street where the pharmacy is, to the right of the pharmacy, the storefront's decorated and has a name over it, but that's about to become and we've noticed a lot of work going on there, a jazz bar, a piano bar, jazz bar.
That's what's up.
And then across the street from it, you may have noticed during the art walk, there's people that are in that storefront that's going to be Stinky Cheese. And they basically, on Art Walk, actually are open. They have wine in there. There's a wine person in town that uses that storefront, but they are in the final stages of getting their permits to open that. And the idea would be, as you walk in, there'll be a little circular bar that'll hold about 15 or 16 seats. And I haven't had them yet, but they had people have tried their tomato soup and cheeseburgers, or grilled cheese. And they're going to make several kinds of grilled cheese with this incredible homemade tomato soup in the front. And then you go behind that, and that's the cheese shop. So when I talked to them last, which was 2 art walks ago, they were a couple of weeks away from getting their final permits, and they anticipated 2 to 3 months of construction.
Nice, nice. I got a question about Baker X. It's been something that I've been seeing for a long time. The sign is beautiful. The building looks like it's had some investment, and it just seems like the business just still isn't open. It's right there at the end of Georgia. I'm not next to the laundromat, kind of.
It's next to the laundromat. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I've noticed that. And someone told me during a farmer's market that they were slowly working on it, but I've never seen any activity.
Right.
I walk up and down Georgia quite often, and I'll see in a number of these places I described to you, the doors open, and there's lots of work going on.
Right.
But I've never seen anything going on in there. We could try to check it more on. I'm curious myself.
Yeah, that business is one that's always on my radar. And then, of course, my folks over on Springs Road, they're still trying to get that restaurant open. And actually, I reached out to them the other day, and they were asking me, they sent me like a long list of, I guess, requirements that the city is still asking them for. And they're asking me questions like, why does the city want all this stuff when this place was already a restaurant? You know, they think that it's a lot of overlapping that's being required of them, and it's just really slowing down the process. I mean, you've been in the job for like 6 months now, and I feel like that was like your first meeting when we was having that conversation, and it's just, I don't know, man. We got to do something about that, about these permitting processes or whatever it is, because even that Baker X family, I met them. I seen them coming out of their business one time, and it's like an Asian family, and they seemed real cool. Like I don't know what they're using the business for at this point, but it's not, you know, being used as a bakery. I'm imagining it's a bakery just based off the name. I actually don't know what it is, but you know, I just want to see these families and these folks that want to invest in Vallejo really get to fulfill that, because I really don't know what the stagnation is, because you got a property sitting in downtown that you've owned for probably 3-4 years now. I can't imagine how much those folks have spent, and they're not even able to make money right now.
The holding costs are astronomical. You know, you're down another $100,000 in the investment on a 2 or 3 year hold, and that's before you talk about any of the improvement costs and whatever money you tied up in those improvements. So, I mean, this is something that's a part of the permit process, right, and whatnot, but it's an obscene condition. And I don't know that we can do anything about it. That's going to have to come from city staff, from the top down, to say this is what we need to clean up and why we need to clean up. But it's a disincentive for a business to want to open up in the community if, in fact, it's going to take them 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years to open, especially one that takes over an existing facility that didn't have the same, that should have had the same requirements, but never did. All of a sudden, you're retrofitting from an ongoing business. Whoa, why would I want to invest in that business if I was buying a business?
Yeah, it's quite a challenge that I'm hearing from a lot of these business owners. So I'm hoping that's something that can be addressed with the streamlining and all these different collaboration talks. Vice Chair Garcia?
Actually, I don't. Oh, I remember what I was going to ask. I had to think about it for a minute. I was curious to know, particularly just in the realm of open and closing businesses. I've been reading about in June and May, so I may be late to the party, but Carino Latte, I understand, is a business here in Vallejo and was really struggling around permits and I think negotiating leases. And I was just curious, maybe specifically for them, if this isn't helpful for them anymore, but broadly for fledgling businesses or even, you know, retaining current businesses, what's available? Who can support when folks are out there that we can, as commissioners, refer businesses to?
So until recently, Annette Taylor in our office is the person who is really focused on business retention, and she's very responsive if people call her. She does everything she can to help. But we recently got a summer intern from the Bloomberg Harvard Summer Fellowship Program, Avi Chandari, and he's focused on this. In fact, you may have seen flyers. He's interviewing two groups of people, business owners and people who want to start businesses, to interview them and find out what their real life experience was. Where were the points of friction, is the term he uses, where things get slowed down. And at the same time, he's looking at what cities, and this is something our city manager talks about, we benchmark ourselves against other cities of similar sizes to see where we are. And then he's heard a couple of cities have gotten very good at turning permits around quickly. So we're going to go visit them and find out what they do and how they got to that point. Because the city manager said to us in one of our first meetings, I think when we met with him, just before he started, he we were talking, and somebody brought this problem up, and he said, if you go to any city or town in America and ask them the top 3 problems, the amount of time it takes to get a permit is always going to be one of them. But he also said in his last 2 jobs, he found a way, by working hard at it and using a certain system, to reduce the time it took to get permits by 45%. This is in Stockton and Cincinnati. And we finally asked him a couple weeks ago sort of how that worked. And he basically got everybody that touches a permit in a room and said, let's take 3 typical permits, let's walk through how we do it, how we think it works. And then let's talk about where the problems are. And then as a group, let's problem solve. So you have somebody there from the planning department, the building department, the legal department, who can brainstorm solutions and get the support of the group. And I heard the other day, the FAA does this when they're putting a new a runway in or a new taxiway. They'll get everybody at the airport that's going to have anything to do with this, and they have a checklist of 27 things they got to do. And they go around the table and say, we're going to do it this way. Is that okay with you? And they go around, and if somebody objects, they ask them why, and they say, do you have a better idea? And if they have a better idea, they adopt it. And by the time they get through the 27 steps, they have a faster process, but they also have consensus. So I think the idea of getting different city departments together to be part of this conversation, not have one department impose their idea and then try it, and if it doesn't work, we start all over again. I think what the city manager has in mind will work. He's been a little preoccupied. He's only been here 2 months now with a $31 million deficit. We're past that now.
I'm not sure how that number keeps growing.
It was 29 the first time I heard it, the last time I heard it. But we just got past that, and we're now going into, later this month, we'll do the goals and visioning session for the city council. And that will be an opportunity to hear from them sort of what their priorities are. But I think that, I've talked to a number of businesses, as all of you have, that have talked about how long it took them to get a permit. And it seems to me that we ought to have put enough attention to the problem and had enough people who know what their role in it is, as the city manager is saying, we should be able to improve that. Not right away, but in the process he did, which took about a year and a half, within about 30 to 60 days, it was getting better. So it's not about fixing it all at once, but it's just constantly making it a shorter period of time and the process getting better.
Yes, improvements. Vice Chair Garcia?
No.
All right. Next, we'll move to our report on discussions with downtown business owners. It sounds like you had a conversation with a couple business owners. Would you like to share on that?
Were you asking about our intern or about? No, business owners. Oh, business owners. He's talking to people who are trying to start businesses and business owners.
No, there's a item 5 is it's saying you had a discussion with some business owners. You kind of already spoke on it a little bit.
I can just say that the one thing that I've heard from business owners that gets back to a previous item on the agenda is that they've asked us to do 2 things, almost every one of them. Help us generate more foot traffic in and around our business. Mostly these are conversations I've had with people downtown, but when I was talking to some at Springs Road, they said the same thing. And get a better story out there. They say that what's on social media is always negative. What usually ends up in the news is a car crash or a shooting, but that's not who we are. And the city needs to do a better job of marketing the positive side of what we do. Those are the 2 things I hear most often. Then I usually hear, can you make the permits go faster?
Thank you for that input. Yeah, that's something we work very hard on the Vallejo Police Chief Advisory Board on, is just trying to change the perception of the city, make sure that people seeing the city in a different light and a beautiful city it is. All right, cool, guys. We'll move on to our action calendar. Item number 8. Our first item, item 8A, report from the Civic Innovation and Technology Subcommittee on the status of the Pole Banner Project, Phase 1, and provide recommendations on location and design for additional banners beyond the ones installed on Georgia Street. So I've had some conversations with different commissioners separately and individually. And I think that everything is going good. I like the 4 designs that we had. I guess there needs to be some tweakage or something for the actual graphics. Mr. Mark from Minuteman actually did send me some AI advice on how these graphics should be, so we can get the perfect print. I think that's how he put it. but just making sure that it's formatted correctly and things like that. And, you know, we're moving forward with that. As far as phase 2 and the second banners, when I spoke to the different commissioners individually, what I pitched was I was recently spent a lot of time at the waterfront, and I noticed that the waterfront has a lack of appeal. The actual banners that are on the waterfront are extremely outdated. I seen that there was one up there from the Wing It migration thing, and that was months ago. It's one of our most walkable, most favorable destinations in the city of Vallejo, and I think that it would attract the most attention. I'm actually tripping about how did I not think about the waterfront the first phase, but you know, we so focused on the downtown area so much that maybe it just kind of slipped my mind. But as I was walking the waterfront, we did the 100-man march on Father's Day, and we all went to the waterfront and kind of celebrated there. And I just was looking up at the pole banners, and I got this like new thing for pole banners now. I'm just like, any city I go to, I'm just like staring at pole banners, tripping out. And I'm just like, man, we got nothing up here. What's going on? We got all these people out here. And I'm just kind of envisioning our little pole banners. I'm just like, man, people would take pictures of those. They, you know, whatever. Just celebrate them and embrace them however they want to. And I just think it would be a good idea, a good location for this next banners. And I'll let the rest of the commissioners weigh in on that.
Yeah, I just want to point something out. As Manny scrolls through these, you have 4 with the full logo.
Yes.
And then you have 4 with the modification to the logo. If you look at the bottom section, the modified versions remove City of and California so that Vallejo is enlarged. So these options, I don't know if options, but they were included in the City Council report for their approval. They did not weigh in on what their preference was, whether the full logo or the modification to the logo. So tonight, if you can finalize your decision, which one's going to the printer, that would be helpful. I just wanted you to see that detail as Manny scrolls through these.
Yes, thank you, Manny, because I am actually seeing the difference in each one now.
The modified.
Yeah, I see in the modified ones. What do you guys think? And go ahead and give me
You and comments
Commissioner
now.
Harrell.
Yeah, on the design, I think the modified logo is far better. It's easier to read. It's more distinctive. I am very, very challenged, however, because in the graphic design of this process, we have a singular banner, and the only way that this is going to be readable if you have the same banner on 2 sides, as opposed to using the full width. So if these are 24 inches wide, you need 48 inches, and then you got the width of a pole that's going to have a different color probably than the actual banner. So anything in the center is going to be split in these designs. So we need to consider that in the overall process. Okay, so if you have the banner, the pole banners go on 2 sides of the pole. So it's 24 inches by 48 inches, 24 by 48.
Right.
But there's a pole between. If you take this, you'd have to put that banner on one side and the same banner on the opposite side.
Double-sided.
So that you could actually read it, because right now, they're always double-sided. Because right now, if this were to be spread out onto 2 banners, right, the pole comes in the middle of it.
I would just have 2 of the same, so it kind of reinforces. Have 2 of the same, and it reinforces that imagery for that, whatever that banner is.
But that's 4, right?
It'd be 2. They double-sided.
They're
Yeah, they're
double-sided.
double-sided.
So it's 4 of the same one on one pole, or one side is one thing and one side is...
I think what you're saying is like the poles here, and then,
I would go
Get a different sign.
1 and 1, I guess, you know. I mean,
you mean like this, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you got
Yeah.
right now.
I think the question I was asking, and I apologize for not really a legal question, but the question that I was asking was, were you suggesting it was same, 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 same?
I didn't make any suggestion.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah, no, I didn't know what you was meaning either.
Oh, I'm simply saying, and Director has said, just put the same one on
Yeah,
both sides of the
yeah,
pole.
yeah.
Otherwise, your graphic needs to be done
Yeah,
in a way
we can't do
that'll
that.
span the two poles.
Yeah.
The two signs.
And then it's
I know
each,
you got expertise in that, so.
so is each banner, like one piece of fabric, two images on the front and the back? Okay.
Yeah, they're double-sided, and I think these banners are gonna represent
And
the
you-
city
yeah.
well, honestly.
And you don't have to have the four sides with the exact same banner. You could actually have, banner A, banner B on opposite sides,
But also, if
right?
you're,
You get the reinforcement that, you're going south on the road, you see the Shipyard City. You're going north on the road, you see Hometown Pride.
but you're not
right.
seeing them at the same time, because you're just driving and you keep
Correct.
going.
Yeah.
So it kind of doesn't matter, right?
No, correct.
Because you're gonna have two poles, two on any one.
Yeah, if you're gonna do
Yeah,
that.
it's gonna be,
yeah.
one thing that I was actually liking, and I'm not sure how specific we need to be in the future with this, but, as far as adding it to other streets, maybe breaking it down, maybe we only need 10 signs here, 10 signs there, as the director was mentioning there. I kind of do like the idea. Based off the quote, I think that the most recent one we got, I think it was like 130-something banners or something like that. So we definitely got a lot of banners. We got 4 designs, and we just got to figure out how to kind of spread them.
Well,
Spread 'em out.
I would suggest that, I'm so sorry. I would suggest that there be pre-planned inventory for additional designs. You have 4 designs here, but we need to be considering in 3 months or 6 months, we got to change them out.
That
So
is something that is something that we can discuss right now as well. That's actually something that the secretary does want us to discuss tonight. If we want to have additional designs, I think for the sake of simplification and actually getting something off the ground, we got to run with these right here, get them off the ground, figure out what's going on, and we can kind of
Chair.
discuss that later, I guess, but
Chair, I'm
Go
not
ahead.
suggesting that we don't get anything off the ground. My concern is that we need to understand that while you have 138 or odd banners in the pool, in the kitty, we really shouldn't put 138 of this out, because in 3 months or 6 months, we'll have no money to make a transition, or even if it was the exact same banner, for damage purposes. We need to be calculating, 5, 8, 10% potentially for damage.
So let me add some things I know. One of the things I know is that you have $18,782 as approved by the amendment to City Council. And the PO was established also on the last day that they were accepting POs for this fiscal year. Now, the expenditure must happen by July 30th. So we do have a PO with Minutemen Press, and we need to let them know what it is that you're purchasing prior to July 30th. We have a proposal for 136 flags, that's 18 by 48, two-sided, with hardware, so it could be 34 of each of your 4 banners.
Yes, and speaking to Commissioner Harrell's thoughts, this is, I really hope I'm not sure what was the wording on, what was the verdict on the 20,000 for next year that we requested as far as our next year budget. But, this is going to be a pilot program that is going to take off and do good things for the city of Vallejo. And hopefully we can build the trust with the city council that we can establish our budget to continue, so we can continue to have good ideas like the string lights in the banner program, and keep these things going, because we don't want these things just get phased out And then, like you said, you know, we need to have a kind of a timeline on this mindset as well, because they all our things going to say Vallejo 175, but we're halfway through the year now. We get these things up in September. They only up for 3 months, you know, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose. I feel like this would have been an excellent month to have them up during the 4th of July with all the visibility, all the people outside. But unfortunately, it just didn't unravel that fast. But that's a great thing. I mean, I'm not sure if you want to discuss any ideas as far as designs tonight. It sounds like that is our task tonight at this time, to come up with a new design. Am I clear on that, Secretary? What we got?
You know, as I thought about it, we did action this with that opportunity to consider a different design, but that would have to go back to council.
Yes.
And yeah, we have no item on the July agenda for that, so that you can expend before the 30th. So perhaps leaving the already approved designs for this first round and just deciding a different location today.
City Attorney?
So we have to get a contract with whoever it is to create these banners.
Minuteman Press on Tennessee Street.
Well, that's where you got the bid from, right?
Yes.
And how much money are we talking about?
Yeah, we got a PO with them
For how much money?
for the $18,782.
Okay, well, that's not really a PO purchase, given that it's to purchase a product. So I don't think the contract is the problem. I think the question is, do you want 100, what did you say, 175 banners is what that adds up to? No,
136
136.
Is that 136 poles?
banners.
No, I think it's 136 banners, which is 1/4 of that if you're arranging them the way you just decided, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Although I'm not quite sure what Yvette meant by double-sided.
So double-sided there, the banner has the image on both sides.
With all the same image.
So you only
We
need
have
two
4 different
of
images.
those.
You only need 2 per pole of those. Yes, but they all have the same image, right? And I think the chair is raising the question of, by the time they're delivered, get a contract, pay them, get delivery, how much time is left in year 175? Is that what you're raising?
Yes.
Well, I don't know that we should be too concerned about that.
No, I'm not
Because
saying
I mean, you know,
it's the major
we're at the
thing.
250th year of the anniversary. That's going to be around for a while.
Right.
I know the bicentennial was back in the day because I was there.
Not me. No, I'm
Of
just
course.
kidding.
So I don't think the 175 matters, but I think, do we need to go into the detail of how many of what type and that sort of thing?
You could
Or will that be done elsewhere? Again, I'd make the recommendation that you have 2 different sides, but when they go up, the same side is facing forward. Do you follow me? 2 different artwork, 1 on each side, but when the two signs go up, the same ones are facing one direction and a
flip 'em
different one
around.
is facing the other.
A side, B side,
I'm sure that's
B side, A side.
formatting thing.
Yeah, it's easy enough to tell them. We want the banners to have this artwork on 30 and this artwork on 30 or whatever the number might be. Yeah.
I was just going to say, if I'm mathing this, there's 4 banners per pole, right? And 136 banners. That's 34 poles. Is that not right?
No, that's what we were thinking, but because each one's double-sided,
Okay.
then you divide 136 by 2. Because one banner goes here, one banner goes here, and
Sure.
it has 2 images on both sides. So it's half of 134, which I think is
So double, so it's 68.
68.
Okay. Well, that,
68 poles.
68 poles, right.
Isn't it
130.
68 banners?
No, it would be 138 banners.
I'm trying not to laugh.
If you count both sides, sure.
Well, you
That's
have
right.
to. He's going to charge us for both sides.
No, that isn't what I meant. I meant you're, never mind. It's
Yeah,
okay.
we get it. It's a little bit twisted.
Yeah, you're,
I'm bringing Calvin with me because he's a
I'll
banner
be happy to go.
professional.
Could I make a suggestion? I
Yes.
think while we're getting it printed, what would be really helpful is the committee that worked on this, or whatever group of you want to work together, just walk the streets, because already on Georgia, there's some farmers market signs that are in good shape. So if you walked from, say, Sonoma down to Mare Island Way and just counted the poles you'd like to have them on, then you know how many of the 68 you're using up. And if your next choice was to look at Mare Island Way, sort of as a cross from where Georgia, you could also kind of walk down, because it's going to be important when you're talking to Public Works about putting them up, about telling them where you want them.
Yeah, so I actually just did that again, walking, starting from is that the Maritime Building, or what is that, the Anchor Building, or?
Anchor Center.
Yeah, the Anchor Center, right there. There's no signs there. There's maybe one farmer's market sign. I can't tell if it's orange or red. I'm not sure if it's been improved, or I really couldn't tell if it was just sunburnt or whatever. But and then the street before that, it's a level of redundancies just insane to me. There's like 8 farmers market signs back to back. I'm just like, what is going on right here? Like, how many times you gonna tell me farmers market is on Saturday from 9 to 2? But you know, we need some diversity in that. And then those signs are kind of worn as well. But so I've been trying to walk up and down that to really identify where these signs should be placed, because a lot of the hardware is there. It's just the sign isn't there, which kind of goes to the question of maintenance and everything else that Commissioner Harrell kind of brought up a couple times. Go ahead, Commissioner Harrell.
Farmers market, look, I don't want to spoil relationships that the city may have, but, you know, their signage actually falls into the idea of it's advertising a private industry, a private company's event. They're permitted to do what they do on the city street, but the flag, to my recollection, the flag provision that was developed says you can't advertise a personal business on the street. So are we prepared to advise them that those flags do not meet the criteria that we have?
I would need to go look at whether or not the farmer's market falls under a city-sponsored event, which then would make it meet the criteria. So I suppose that's a question,
okay.
which we could look at.
I'm raising it, yes.
Sure. I think from the perspective, if you want to have some questions answered, we can answer those questions. From the perspective of what's before you tonight, however, I think it's of the designs that the city council approved, which Yvette is telling, I missed the last council meeting, or the one before. Of those signs that were approved, they were all approved, and the question is, how many of each do you want? If we're going to get it in contract,
All right, what's the number we
brought
got?
back to you as quickly as possible.
Minuteman has it listed, I think it was 30, around
So it's
34 each.
68.
was the
Okay,
total.
that works. And I just need to know which one, with the full logo
Yeah,
or
it's,
with the
68.
The modified
bigger,
one.
the modified?
Yes,
Okay,
with the Vallejo
perfect.
only.
Perfect. And then you
Signs.
already decided on Georgia Street. Next, just
Okay.
decide on what
City attorney, give me 1 second.
your second location.
We have multiple conversations going on, and I don't, it sounded like unilateral direction there. So if we can instead have a discussion about the 34 each, and then you make a motion so that we can be official, that would be super helpful.
City Attorney, on this item, I also was looking for location for the Phase 2.
Well, my question is, you are expending all of the dollars here, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Phase 2 is, or is not funded?
It is funded, but the location hasn't been specified.
Can I take a shot at
Yes.
a way this might work? What you're doing is you're saying, if we literally say we want, and I'm making this up, this is just for the purpose of discussion, you want 34 of each, and you're going to put together a map of Phase 1, which Phase 1, as I understood it, was from Sonoma to Mare Island Way along Georgia, where
Georgia, yes.
needed. So if you were then to go out and kind of take a map and mark the poles in red, and just say on one side, on this side, we want you name the one through 4, this side. So it's a map you could give Public Works. What that would do is tell you how many you have left over for Phase 2. So this is tied into Phase 2, because unless you know how many you have, you don't know how many and where you might want to put them. If you choose, whether it's Tennessee Street or Maryland Way or wherever you want Phase 2 to be, you need to know how many you have, which to get to that step, I think is what we've been talking about today.
Yeah, if I can just kind of recollect my thoughts. I remember walking down the street and counting the poles, literally. It was, I started from the beginning of Georgia to the end, essentially. I didn't go to Mare Island Way. I didn't go all the way to Mare Island Way. I stopped right here pretty much at the Santa Clara. That was really my point of emphasis. Mare Island Way, I have no objection to it at all. I'm not sure if there's pole banners there, though. But I know I definitely know that the pole banners are in the general downtown area, and that was like really where my thought process was. And I remember counting, I think it was around 40 poles or something like that, and about 40% were utilized at that time. This was probably 3 months ago, though, at least. At this time, when I just drove down Georgia Street right now, the only thing that I seen noticeable was at the Redmond's Hall, they have some black and yellow signage kind of up there. In front of La Clinica, there's really nothing. In front of the townhouse, there's nothing. Then you go to further down to the pharmacy area, there's really nothing but farmers. That's where all the farmers market signs are. And then you come to our next street, which is like where we are here, Santa Clara, and the Anchor Center, and there's like one sign there. So yeah, I literally did walk up and down the street multiple times, and I think I counted roughly about 40 poles, and about 40 of them were 50% were utilized at that time. So definitely what you're talking about, creating that roadmap with Public Works, have no problem doing that so we can get down to the bottom of it. Commissioner Harrell?
Yeah, I think that we need to break this decision down quickly, and that is effectively we have 4 groups of 17 banners or 17 poles based on the 68. If we assign each of the banners a letter code, A, B, C, and D, then 17 would have A on one side and B on the other. 17 would have C on one side, D on the other, and so forth. You go to A and D, and then B and C. And so you get a mix of the banners. It might be ideal that the artwork have a number, a sequential number on it, so that for city Public Works, they can quickly identify it without having to unroll the banner. In other words, if there's a number on the tail end that's visible, right, yeah, they know that, okay, I need A on this side of the pole. I need B on this side of the pole, kind of thing. So I think that that's what we need to do. And then you're going to use all of the artwork, so the question is answered within that math formula. And then it's just a matter of, okay, what is the next location? Now, again, while we might expend resources for all of the banners, because we need to expend the monies by a certain date, it doesn't mean that we have to put them all on display at one time. A portion of that becomes your backup inventory. So we should do that. My take personally is, while Sonoma is a good location, I'm curious, who pays for the flags that are up over there in front of the Mare Island building? You know, who pays for those flags up there?
201 Mare Island, is it 201 or 301?
400, yeah. There's flags across the street. I believe it's across the street from that area. Yes, they're on the medium. And so the quick question is, who pays for that? Who upkeeps and maintains that?
The answer to that is the city.
The city does. So we're already putting good resources on Sonoma in that regard. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't put a welcome to Sonoma banner, but this is not exactly welcome to Vallejo banner down there, especially in the ferry area and that parking structure area. So I would definitely do that. But I, again, think it incredibly important that we put the word out, and this is designed to do so, up on the main thoroughfare, highest car traffic, and that is the Solano development. Sorry, Costco development. Vallejo on the move is really the message that I see that banners can do. We're not changing the banner. We're not going to change the banner. I'm saying that if we're talking about an additional location, up in that area would work.
So where the new Costco is, sorry, there is not currently, I mean, the street's torn up. So it would be later that those would go up if, in that location, if that's what you want, because I don't think there's poles there right now.
No, I agree with you that it would be put up, quote unquote, later. We would have an idea of when the opening would take place, and we'd ask Public Works to get engaged, prior to their ribbon cutting or whatever takes place. Again, elevating that area and letting them know, hey, we've got other stores up that way, and we've got store, that's not going to be on the banner. I'm just saying they get engaged and they see it coming.
And just for a point of clarification, I think you were referring to Mare Island Way as Sonoma, and it's Mare Island Way.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I
You're
just,
right. Nope.
if the public's listening to this
I
later or
appreciate
the
that.
minutes,
You're
I think it's Mare
100%
Island.
right.
Thank you.
You're absolutely right. So is the Mare Island Way. They've got flags over there, and we maintain those. And it looks fantastic, candidly, especially when they're brand new. So I don't know if we need to do a lot of embellishing with the signage on there. Lastly, as you count poles, you mentioned 40 poles, and it seems like, oh my God, that'll eat up all of the inventory. There's nothing to stop us from staggering the poles. So it's pole on this side, every other pole, every other pole, you'll stretch the volume that you have, yet you'll have the visual impact coming both sides very well. It'll stretch us out significantly more. So as we map out areas, I think you're actually going to have more areas than we realize if we use the correct strategy for distribution.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the meeting, I thought one of the next location would be ideally the waterfront, not Mare Island Way, but actually if you're on the waterfront where people are fishing at, there's actually pole banners there that are, the actual walkway along the waterfront. There are pole banners there that have hardware that are unoccupied. There's no banners there. That's a high visibility, high walkable area that hundreds of people walk every single day. Probably more people walk in that area than the actual downtown Vallejo. But I think that's a great location for the next phase of banners, to keep it simple. And I'm just trying to keep things simple because I feel like we just overthink things and overcomplicate things. And this is why banners are taking 10 years and why we don't even have this should even be our job, first off. This should be a city budgeted thing. Somebody in the city should be responsible for putting up banners, for God's sake, in our city. I mean, I'm sure we somehow got the money to do it. We're facing $31 million budget. I mean, good God, let's try to invest it somehow, some way into the small things too. But, I honestly don't even think this is something we should be responsible for. But, I'm glad that we're trying to take this on and get this done. But to get back to the fact, I think the second location is the waterfront. Is there any objective to that?
So point of clarification, there's no such street called the waterfront, so for the purposes of your motion. So you've got,
Way near the ferry terminal.
is that what you're saying? Maryland Way during the ferry terminal, or are you saying towards Wilson?
You're talking about the pedestrian way that's
The
by the
walkway
edge of the
where
water.
people walk.
What is that called?
Yeah, we got to figure out whatever the term is for that.
Are you talking about on the water side? Yeah. Okay, that is the promenade. That doesn't have a street name.
Okay.
So the
So that
waterfront
would-
promenade?
We couldn't do it there because there's no street name?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I think I'm saying I'm trying to get clarity in your motion
Understood.
before you, so that Public Works understands the
What's like-
motion. So,
Yeah, it's like
That's
a
all I'm trying to
whole
do.
mile, or what is it, a mile, 2 miles or something? It's like a whole stretch, but obviously I'm not sure how far the pole banners go. But in the one area that I'm thinking about is right before Manny's. If I can give you a good, pretty much that walkway. Manny's, all the way to Manny's and Hibachi Express. To
So you're
the other
talking-
end to the marinas or the,
you're talking about the area, so you've got Manny's, Hibachi, Mare Island Brewing, or
not
or the
even
ferry
going that
building.
far, because I don't even think there's pole banners next to in that restaurant where the restaurants are. There's no banners.
Can I-
But along the strip, that's where the actual poles are.
Can I interject, just absent
Yes, go
a
ahead.
specific street name right now? I am just curious if we can delegate the street name selection or street selection to our public works teams who are on the ground. We did this with the string light category, and I think we have a general vicinity,
Right.
right? It sounds
Right.
like, and I think similar to Commissioner Mitchell's opportunity, we had the opportunity to have a representative just go and look and give a thumbs up. And I think that maybe that would be the best motion so that we could make a decision and move on.
Thank you. Please.
So I'd like to make a motion to delegate, to make a request. I'm not really sure which, actually, if we're delegating, making a request to the Public Works team, to our Public Works Department to decision the appropriate strip or street of waterfront?
The promenade?
Promenade, the appropriate place in the promenade to place our pole banners.
And you're talking about splitting it between Georgia Street and the promenade, correct?
First,
No.
Phase 1 is Georgia Street. Phase 2 is Promenade.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if you have some left, because we're going to place the order for as much as you can purchase. If you have some left, we can come back in September and tell you how many are left and see what we can do with them. Or we save them for switching out or
Right.
something. We'll get an update on September.
Commissioner Harrell, did you have a
Yeah.
comment?
I have concerns about delegating the selection of marketing and advertising information to an entity that has not been engaged in marketing or advertising at any time since I've been around this city, and I'm not sure they ever have any. Public Works doesn't have people that understand. I do not believe Public Works has individuals that are cognitive of signage, placement, et cetera, without being told where to put the signs. So I'm very reserved on saying, let them pick the poles to put it on. Let them pick the streets to put it on. I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, I think,
it was-
I think just to add, I don't disagree with you, Commissioner Harrell. I think the thing that I would build on is that it's, what I'm hearing from the chair is that we have a general vicinity that we have targeted and that we've narrowed on, but there is not a lot of clarity on that specific street name. And I'm only reflecting back, I think, what I'm hearing from you, Chair.
Yeah,
less
it
so
sounds like-
that we are sort of throwing, decision-making to the wind.
It sounds like we're just trying to ease the transition of like identifying our area and making sure that our area is what we're talking about. So Public Work clearly understands, hey, we're looking at, so we're not just guessing, oh, it's between Manny's and Hibachi, you know what I mean? Like, we're actually gonna, if we can, request the Public Works to do something that, similar to Commissioner Mitchell, kind of a walk along, just like, hey, this is our ideas, this is what we're looking at. As long as it's cool with the city attorney, we should be okay. Go ahead, Commissioner
I
Harrell.
would recommend.
I was just looking at you giving direction that was clear, but you can do whatever you want. You can delegate it to Public Works, you can delegate it to,
I would recommend that a specific number of banners be designated by this commission for each location. That way they know how many they're working with from start. You know, we only need 5 down on the,
Exactly.
you know,
Not that many.
near the ferries. You know, so we need to designate that at this stage, in my opinion, before it's passed on to Public Works. So let's go through that process as a part of this. Should that be a part of your?
That's totally fine because our initial plan was 50 poles. So let's stick to that. It was was it 50? No, it was 50. But what was the original quote? It was like 7,000 or something like that. It was 50.
50 banners.
Yeah, it was 50 banners on Georgia Street, one on each side. Obviously breaks it down to 25 per.
poles.
So we know where we're at on Georgia. We're using 50 banners on Georgia. We already knew that. Now we
So
got
that's 25 poles.
okay. So now we got additional 86.
You got it.
86 banners. So we got to figure out how many poles we got on the waterfront or the promenade, and that is not nowhere near as many as Georgia Street was, if I'm looking at it correctly. But I will need to walk over to that
If I could make
area
a
again.
suggestion, I think the experience we had with the string lights was when the idea came up, we had to make a decision. Yvette and I went down there, met with one of the commission members and the public works staff. There were 5 of us there, and we had a very good conversation. They proposed several ideas. We agreed to some, and your representative agreed to. Maybe the same thing would work here, so we don't have to spend too much more time on this, and just say that Yvette and I will go and walk with one or more of you and somebody from Public Works from one end of Georgia, from, say, Sonoma down to Mare Island Way, and then walk the area you're talking about. And if it's you're there, you know exactly what your idea is. And if what you're going to say at the end is 5 work, and we tell them, you tell them as a group you want 10, well, then it's 10, it's 5 you didn't need to use there.
Right.
So I think the way to make this sort of an interactive process is the same way we do with string lights, is a few of you come with Yvette and I and Public Works. So they're not left on their own.
Right.
I understand that. But I think as a group, we could make some pretty good decisions.
We definitely can. But we do still have a motion on the table. And that was essentially to delegate this, to do exactly what the interim director just mentioned. Can I get a second?
Okay, go ahead. I was just going to clarify the motion because it seemed like we were
Please do.
a little bit
Please do.
back and forth. Okay, I'm going to attempt this, but feedback, please. I'd like to make a motion to approve the banner designs and designate the target areas in concept, which include Georgia Street and the Promenade, with exact pole locations to be identified by staff through a site review with the commission member and brought back and installed, I think, at that point.
It's apparently not gonna work for me.
You green still.
No, it won't work if I screen. I think the problem.
You notice if too many of these
I think you
Oh,
guys
I'll turn
every
my-
day-
Sorry.
There, that's what, you got it. The only thing I believe, Commissioner Garcia, you left out of your motion, which design? The simplified versus. The simplified.
Simplified.
There we go.
Simplified. So I think we just need a second, is that right?
Second.
Commissioner Williams has seconded.
Let's do it.
Thank you, guys. All right, now we'll move.
Well,
Roll call.
Chairman Rowe,
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Still can work. All right, guys, let's move on to action item 8B, or is this 8 or 9? Yeah, 8B. Discuss and develop a set of recommendations that would attract construction, advanced manufacturing, software, film, and wholesale business to the city of Vallejo. It's a city council referral. I'll just start this conversation off with, I reviewed the presentation for the second time today, right before the meeting. And Mr. Dave, right? David Hubble? Yeah. His presentation was good. I was not here in person that day. I was listening online. But I just want to kind of go over it again to just really kind of get to the meat and potatoes of what kind of information he was providing. And, you know, he had a lot of suggestions and this and that. And I remember we kind of kept prolonging this item because we wanted to listen to the presentation and then give some feedback after the presentation. And, you know, I really don't have too much more to say other than he really didn't have too much to say about the software and film and wholesale business. I remember he said that was kind of like a secondary business opportunity. But as far as the construction, he was talking about a lot of like pipelining, how we don't have anything going on with our school, our education system to kind of help out the maritime industry, and how we need to really focus on making Vallejo this kind of maritime hub or destination for years to come, because we got this thing in our community, but we're not really taking advantage of it as a community as far as like building this pipeline of maritime industry people like welders and all these different professional trades that are very attractive and very, you know, good financial jobs, you know, quite frankly, but it just seems like there's a lack of interest. And seems like his focus was kind of figuring out how do we attract more of those, more interest in those areas. Anybody got any other conversation on this one? Commissioner Harrell?
Well, my only comment, rather than conversation, my only comment is that it's the idea of engaging and training in the skill sets that are desired for maritime construction and that sort of thing. They're the trade side, and our education system has to be willing to transition their current model of everybody go to college. We all know that that's never worked and whatnot, and they stripped industries from within cities, and that's really what caused much of the challenges that folks have had. So we would need to refer to, I'm not sure, but I would think we need to refer to our liaison to work with whatever they work with the school district. And then we can individually talk to school board members and whatnot to say, hey, look, what are we doing to address the trades education component? Because we know they're needed and will be needed going forward. So what are we doing to do that? And if they're not going to make the change, how do we do it as a city? Very difficult.
I do have one question. Thank you for those comments, Commissioner Harrell, and I'll get right to you, Vice Chair Garcia. When they say a set of recommendations, is there a specific number that they want us to reach?
No, not at all. This is
Okay.
a report based on what your recommendations are.
Got you. So I just heard one excellent recommendation, and I'll just kind of paraphrase what Commissioner Harrell was saying, but he was kind of mentioning our council liaison, or possibly the 2x2, which is the commission between 2 school board members and 2 city council members, collaborating and conversating about how can we improve you know, this maritime industry pipeline that's here in the city of Vallejo. And look like we got a council member possibly stepping up. Let's go. What we got?
So as the chair for that 2x2 commission, that is where, as you had pointed out, there's 2 council members along with 2 trustees from the school board, along with our city manager and and their superintendent. So those are the type of conferences that would come great, would be great to have at those type of that meeting and stuff. But the fact that I work, for those that may not know, I actually work for the school district, and so part of what at the high school level, they're set up by academies right now. So right now, I'm not aware of them having a maritime academy. I know they have an engineering academy, but from a maritime standpoint, but I can speak, interim economic development director, Paul and I, we were actually at a graduation on Friday for, it's called the Working Waterfront Coalition. And they had their 6th graduation. So this is actually a 10-week program that graduates go through. And at that end of the 10 weeks, they actually, I don't know if it's a certificate or they get some sort of document, like a graduation, to where that gets them ready to get into the maritime industry. And from my conversations that we had at that graduation is they are primed and have jobs lined up for them already. So it's similar to a trade concept where they're actually going through an education and a technical training portion of that. So, and I think Mr. Paul can kind of speak to what he knows more about from that particular graduation that we attended.
No, that was there. I've been to 3 of the 6, and they're very moving. And they're people that are between like just graduating from high school, probably early 40s. They look like the people who live in Vallejo. It's a very diverse group of people. And the one thing we heard, and I think we both reacted to this, is that we need to get more people. There were 12 who graduated. 2 were from Vallejo. Mm-hmm. The rest were from Richmond, Oakland, Vacaville,
San Francisco.
And so the key is to get people that, and they'd be willing to do this, I think, the people that run this, to go down at the high school level and even the middle school level and talk about the careers that are available in the maritime industry. We could also do the same thing with the other things that are listed here, advanced manufacturing. Is if you tell a story to somebody who's in 6th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade about you could have a future doing this, and if you do, this is the kind of things you work on. I was just over there today, and they have on the walls now these great photographs of people who graduated in their actual jobs, grinding on a boat, welding on a boat, painting a boat, working for WIDA on the ferries as deckhands. If you could bring kids on a regular basis from Vallejo schools down to that location and just walk them through and say, this could be you, this could be you. There's one guy they said is going to be a ship captain one of these days. That's how good he is. So I think there's opportunities, and I think if my experience is there needs to be a focus on certain things. And as a commission, you could help the city focus on that as a beginning point and the big selling point when we go and talk to people about moving here is, do you have a workforce, a trained workforce? And if you can say, this is what we do, we go right down into the high school and junior high school and middle school level to get people on a track to go into the programs, because Cal Poly has a good program, Working Waterfronts has a good program, there's a lot of good programs. Solano Community College has all kinds of good programs. So I think that's the piece that we heard about at the graduation where they thought we could really make a difference.
And this is where during that was my first time at that graduation, so I didn't really understand the program. And when I had that understanding and when I had that conversation with people and I let them know that I work with the school district, that is the exact conversation that we had, was getting this type of program, getting this type of understanding of this trade right out of high school that you can go into, and getting it promoted and understood that going through the elementary to middle school to the high school, that this is an opportunity for students at that age. Because once again, the mindset is now that people can't afford to go to a 4-year college, or they may not have the ability to go to even a junior college. A lot of people are trying to.
It's not worth going.
And it may not be worth going, building up that college debt. So this is where, once again, similar to the models that a lot of the trades and a lot of the unions are having, is trying to recruit students right out of high school to say, you've got something available to you right now to where you just get an apprenticeship, you get your training through this X, Y, or Z, and we have that training for you that gives you an opportunity to go straight into a job opportunity and a career right then and there.
All right, excellent. Vice Chair Garcia?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in with a couple of comments and questions. So I think from my standpoint, just to recenter the conversation, I think we've had a lot of good conversation around education and technical. I think part of the reason why we had to push this item off to July this month despite the timeline and the request that we originally received, is because we were to come back with some written recommendations, which obviously we're discussing through right now, which is helpful. I think what would be really helpful to me, and refresh my memory, it's been a little bit since I've read the economic development strategy, but I would love to know, like, what are our targets in each of these industries? Like, what are we aiming for in construction, advanced manufacturing, software, film, and wholesale? Just to kind of get a sense, of how many people are we talking about training? Like, what does that pipeline look like? If we are having a discussion as a body, like, what kinds of activations then should we be thinking about? If we're talking about a huge investment in film, I think that's going to look a lot different than a more pronounced activation in construction. Or maybe that's a discussion that we have. I don't know if we have any targets, so I'd love to hear from anybody if we do. I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, I didn't hear about anything specific like that when in the presentation, to be honest. I'm sitting here thinking about ordinances that, kind of help the city of Vallejo attract these, maybe not even an ordinance, but like maybe incentives that attract businesses to actually want to come here. Because, I was just telling Commissioner Harrell today, I do a lot of jobs for businesses that come out of town to do work in the city of Vallejo, and I'm just like, these folks are being housed, these folks are sleeping in hotels, being paid by these folks, and you could have a Vallejo business doing this, and you could possibly save some money on all those different costs and things like that. So I'm really struggling with the idea on what is holding us back, and sometimes that's really the conversation that needs to be had, is like, what are the actual restrictions that's stopping us or prohibiting us from actually excelling and exceeding and actually getting and retaining businesses and attracting construction companies coming? How much space do we have on Mare Island? We got a fairgrounds that's being underutilized, in my opinion. We got a lot of space here in the city of Vallejo that could be used better, and we just got to, a lot of the point of this conversation today is changing the perception of the city. And it really does start there, Commissioner Garcia.
Well, I was going to add, so I think maybe what I'm hearing, barring any consensus, we don't necessarily have some clear targets. So it sounds like, some prioritization could be a fruitful place to start this conversation, is of these things that are here. And, I think this is more observational than fact-based, but it would seem to stand that Vallejo has enormous amount of vacant land compared to other Bay Area cities. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know what that comparison looks like. I don't know if anybody has that data here. But it seems to me that if I were to sort of prioritize a short list of things, that is probably where I would start, because we need this came up earlier when we were having this discussion with planning. We need short, mid, and long term. And right now, sadly, what I think is maybe my biggest frustration in watching a lot of our development conversations is we have no way to capture fees up front, which would probably be some of the largest boons to our revenue structure and revenue stack here in the city. And so to me, of this short list that's provided, construction feels like the most salient one. I will also add something that is on another set of recommendations that are already drafted, but we have not pushed forward, is this question of data centers, because technically data centers do push a lot of construction, but they don't push a lot of long-term jobs. And I would actually say that I think that we should be extremely cautious about moving forward and recommending as a body that any construction is good construction, that in fact that we really need to have some solid footing. And we know in Gilroy and other nearby cities that are impacting our grid here in Vallejo actually are contemplating these issues and are interested in taking the construction value. But I would also caution us as a city and as a body to really think that through. So those are the 2 points that I'm making. One is that to me, in this short list of things, construction seems like the heaviest priority. But I will also say I don't think all construction is good construction.
Commissioner Harrell?
Yeah. One of my challenges with this was it was extraordinarily broad when you try to develop a set of recommendations that'll attract, the word should just be, that'll attract business and resources into the city. We don't even need to break it. So it's extremely broad and difficult. My question and the question that the council member went about addressing, my question more specifically was, it's great to introduce a kid to something. It's much better to get them hands-on with something. I know that in my lifetime and professional experience, and the reason that I chose to go into the industry that I'm in was because a camera was put in my hands very early, and I was shepherded on through the process of learning and knowledge and artistic comprehension and et cetera, over many years while I was in school. This is not something we can solve, obviously, in this meeting, but our schools have to be encouraged that they are a part of the city, and frankly, they directly impact the city's economics. And in the absence of using the schools as an educational tool to build that workforce so that they're literally ready when they come out of high school for those students that would choose, we're saying, okay, when they get to high school and up to 40, you said graduate up to 40 years old, there's a lot different, they're learning, whereas everything they're learning would have been learned during 3 years in an academy at a high school. So that's what I'm more interested in from a educational city, school district collaboration, is how do we get them to understand that you should be actually preparing these young people for the jobs that are here now and in the future, because some subject matter that we are studying, I realize some of it is state mandated, but give the kids an option that they can go to an after-school course or whatever on their school campus. So I'll just leave it at that. I strongly encourage the city to let the city council members to let school district personnel, or the board anyway, help them to understand how integral they are to the turnaround of the entire city.
Commissioner Williams, you got anything? Sorry.
Let's close it out.
No.
Get out of here.
I'm okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Just checking in on you.
And I think, to Commissioner Harrell's point, is that would be the ideal topic and subject to bring up at the 2x2, because then you have two different agencies that are talking like-minded goals of having that, and that was the purpose. That is the purpose of the 2x2 of identifying like-minded goals like that, to make sure everybody's on the same page, to see what can we work collaboratively to get everybody moving in the same direction type of deal. So our next 2x2 is probably going to be in. It's probably going to be in September. So,
are the 2x2s private, or are they public?
They are public meetings on the fourth Thursday of every month.
Okay, good. I appreciate that.
Fourth Thursday?
Fourth Thursday of every month at 4:30, right here in City Council.
Do we publish that
Yes.
Is that information published
Yes.
as a meeting?
Yes, it is.
Is it recorded?
Yes, it is.
Wow, it's fourth what?
The fourth Thursday of every month. That's what the current standing
you.
schedule is. 4:30, right here in City Council chambers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really valuable.
Yes,
We can weigh in and make
Very much so.
suggestions.
very much so.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Chair Garcia?
And Commissioner Williams.
Commissioner Williams? She's all good.
I think the one other thing that I wanted to highlight, I believe, and again, I'm looking at Director Paul, let me know if I'm off in my assessment here, but I believe that most of our revenue as a city is actually coming from sales tax. Is that correct? A big chunk of it. And that most of our property taxes are probably coming from a few larger developers. Is that also, does that seem accurate as well?
A lot of individual homes, and you add them all up, there's so many of them, that does create a big chunk of revenue. But when you're trying to generate new revenue, which is what we're focused on, like a Costco coming in or a larger business is a pretty big hit of revenue.
Right, and in order to attract comparatively, if you were to compare that to the film industry, for example, I think the point that I'm trying to make is how would you compare that in terms of revenue generation between like the film industry versus development?
Well, my wife is sort of in the film industry. She's a documentary filmmaker, and since COVID, they've taken a huge hit. The film industry is way down in LA. It's way down everywhere because they're beginning to switch to AI, and other countries and other cities offer very substantial subsidies. So we had 13 Reasons here, and I can imagine we might have other movies. And the fact that we have a really cool-looking older downtown in Mare Island are pretty unique.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of film making going on in California right now, and that may change.
I ask that, one, because in terms of a strategic approach, what that portfolio looks like, I think, for other cities compared to some of the other land value capture that we could have, I think, in garnering, I think dollars up front and looking at our revenue stack. The second thing that I also know is that the city of Oakland is investing a lot of money in incentives and tax breaks to attract the film industry back into Oakland, and they're making a tremendous investment there. I think the city of San Francisco is doing that, and so I think one of the things that I'd be interested in understanding is if I'm not necessarily opposed to investing in the industry, but I think what are we prepared to do for the return on that investment, I think is the question.
I think you raised a really good question, and it gets back to prioritization. So and I've heard our new city manager talk about, in the cities he's worked in before, one of the best tools they had was tax increment financing. And so he's trying to think about how we could do that. He's thinking about economic development tools. But if you're only going to have so many incentives to provide, you have to start choosing which are the industries that we're most likely, do we have the assets that are we likely to attract them? And we have a lot. We have access to water for transportation, rail, highway. We've got lots of water that we can make available for projects, which is a hard thing to do in some parts of the country right now. We actually have more reliable than PG&E energy right now from Island Energy, and it's a little cheaper than what PG&E does. So we have a lot of built-in advantages. One of the big pushes the city's making right now is shipbuilding, which is the larger version of what the councilman was just talking about. And the Cal Poly Maritime and we're working Waterfront Coalition are waiting to hear about a state grant to really ramp up production, because one of the ways you're going to get shipbuilders to come here is to know that it won't be that hard to find workers. So that's a key part to it. But if you haven't read it, there's a strategy for maritime revitalization. And I know most of you read it, but for the audience, get a copy of it off of our website. And it's been done by the Roosevelt Group, and it's very thoughtful, and it's done in stages. And part of it talks about ship repair, about getting the Coast Guard and the Navy to station ships here. And one of the questions that came up, I know I was talking to Assistant City Manager Conley about this, and one of the things the Navy looks for in the Coast Guard is, well, if we bring our families here, is there stuff for them to do? So all the things we're talking about doing downtown to make it more of, there's more and more live music coming downtown, there's more events coming downtown. You've got Six Flags where families can take their kids. You've got places nearby like Benicia. So we need to kind of package some of that as a way to market it. But to get back to your question is, where is the biggest bang for the buck? Where would we create jobs that are good paying jobs, that are union jobs? I was just talking with the people that run Harbinger Homes, and they are hoping to be able to reopen sometime soon. And those are really good paying jobs. There are a lot of them, hundreds of them. And so if we're going to invest in tax incentives, that's the best question to ask.
Great, thank you. So on that point, I think I will close my comments to say that, if we're asking for a list of recommendations, for me, construction relies on some of that development. We can't really build a construction industry here if we don't have construction projects, which relies on permitting. I also think that strategy requires us to collect fees at the outset of these developments. And so I'll say that, I've said that many times, I think, on this dais, that continues to be a bit of my disappointment in seeing that we continue to have developments here without capturing those dollars. And then I would also say that it would seem that we, as just an output and a product, need to deliver to the council something written and memorialized of this discussion that we are having. And I don't know if it's worth combining with the earlier document that we discussed, given the lengthy amount of information we received from planning, which seems to overlap with this quite a bit.
Commissioner Williams?
I just wanted to respond a little more to Commissioner Garcia on the film kind of business. And I think whereas advanced manufacturing or software, a business will come, they might build a facility, and then they'll have long-term employment. Film is much more a project here, a project there. But one thing that it does do is not only are the companies directly involved with the filming involved, they also hire a lot of local services like dry cleaning or rentals of equipment and furniture. And so there's a lot of bigger impacts, like the waves, or it echoes throughout the community. So if you had like a relatively steady film presence, then that's really great for a lot of small businesses.
So it sounds like we need a studio here and some consistency, maybe. If anybody
Yeah.
wants to open a film studio, I've heard people are interested.
Yeah, but given the state of the industry in our state, and I don't know, that might be more of a reach versus some of these other things.
I think so. Technology's making it a reach.
Yeah.
All right, excellent, excellent. I think that was a good discussion. To just kind of clarify, I did write down some notes. Looks like I got 6 things kind of jotted down. The first one, and we'll have to formalize this into some sort of formal notice that you'd like, Vice Chair. But I got the 2x2 committee is one of our recommendations that's going to help attract. That's got specifically dealing with the first part of the conversation, the maritime industry. And then second, identifying our targets, simplifying this conversation, at least trying to make it not so broad. And then I'm not sure if we want to put this in there, but you had mentioned data centers. It definitely is something that is a big topic here in the city. in the state of California right now. I have seen some neighboring cities kind of like protesting. I think you mentioned a couple of them, Gilroy. Some pretty controversial city council meetings kind of making their way online. And then another recommendation, creating that educational pipeline to really, focus on this and actually figure out how do we really, you start butting it down. And then construction, obviously that's the biggest one you were really talking about. That really seems like it's going to be the best thing that we could actually, attract somehow, some way. The other things, they're good as well, but this thing definitely has the most meat and potatoes that we can actually probably see and actually see visible change in our city. And then that last thing that you're recommending is, and if you could clarify just a little bit, just for the public, you're stating that we're not receiving upfront fees and cost on development. What are you actually stating there?
I believe that, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we do not actually collect impact fees at the outset. We don't have an impact fee schedule, or are we working out an impact fee schedule? Is that correct? Does anybody know? Confirm, or is there, I'm looking over in the direction of Attorney Nebb and Director Paul to clarify
Sorry,
my,
what was the
my
question?
statement. The fees at the outset of these developments, what are we negotiating at present with developers?
We're not negotiating anything, so, oh boy. So we are, let's see. The planning and development services, building fees will be on as well as fire fees and water fees. We're subject to a study. They will be considered for adoption by the City Council on the 14th. So that's some fees we're talking about. Development impact fees and Quimby fees, so that's park fees, right? So there's two different statutes, two different fees, for parks anyway. And the traffic fees are currently undergoing a study which will be coming forward shortly. And ultimately, the council has a project that will be coming before it. I can't tell you a specific date on that because I don't have it, to consider the inclusion of an inclusionary housing in lieu fee, which will come before the council and be bound into what that fee looks like, the amount, if you want to call that, based on input, again, from a study, which will be coming forward to the council shortly after or concurrent with the consideration of adoption of such an ordinance. Those are the things that are currently on the table. Those are the only fees we really have that relate to development. There are some fees that are subject to special studies in areas that are applied to projects that are in those areas, but those are more on a case-by-case basis as that particular project comes forward, like a roadway improvement that needs to happen in an area that every project in that area contributes to. Does that answer your question?
Answers my question.
Thank you.
For sure. Chair?
Thank you. Yeah, so we'll discuss it and formalize a set of recommendation, and we'll bring it back either, or we'll submit it to the city council. It's a city council referral, so I'm assuming they want those recommendations sooner than later. So we'll discuss that offline and kind of get that formalized so we can get something over to city council and fulfill that goal.
In terms of the commissions, you're saying the subcommittee will discuss that?
This is not assigned to a subcommittee or anything.
Okay, so to the extent that this body is wishing to discuss those sets of recommendations, that must be done in an open, public, and noticed meeting, not offline.
Well, we just discussed, I'm talking about just formalizing what we just talked about.
Yeah, that you can't do that offline either as a whole body.
No, just me and vice chair?
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, got you. All right, guys, we'll move on to our second community forum. Anyone to address the commission on any matter for which another... Did we need a motion for that? We were just discussing. Okay. To the actual council.
We don't have a report.
Through the chair, I can't hear anything that's being discussed.
Sorry. So the secretary was asking the question as to whether the commission's authority could be delegated to two members of the commission, given to Yvette, and then forwarded on. The answer to that question is no.
Got you. So we're moving on to item number 9. That's the second community forum. Anyone wishing to address the commission on any matter for which another opportunity to speak is not provided on the agenda, in which is within the jurisdiction of this commission to resolve, is requested to submit a completed speaker card to the secretary of the commission. When called upon, each speaker should step to the podium, state his or her name and address for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any in-person speakers or speakers online?
Through the chair, barring any speakers who have signed up in the council chambers that would like to speak, we do not have any speakers who have signed up online for this item at this time.
Okay. All right, excellent. We'll move on to item number 10, report of the city council liaison. Councilmember Matias. We'll give him a couple minutes if he's... All right, cool. We'll move on.
Through the chair, Councilmember Matias is not online at this current time.
No problem, no problem. Blessings to him. Number 11, future agenda items. Where we at on that? We got any future future agenda items at this time? Just let it rest for a second, y'all. Announcements. We are not meeting next month. We will meet again in September. The city of Vallejo goes dark in August, and we can respect those wishes. And we'll see everybody in September. And
I have one.
oh, we got another announcement. Go ahead, Vice Chair Garcia.
I just wanted to enthusiastically thank, Chair, you missed this meeting, but we had a unanimous vote to send me to Berlin, where I attended a conference. I attended the Creative Bureaucracy Festival. And while I will put a report on the agenda, because that is part of what I committed to in sharing this, there were 2,000 participants, principally from cities from around the world, representing 50 countries, a large number of those from Europe, but many from the United States. And so, I just wanted to share at a very, very high level. I think that it was incredibly meaningful, I think, to be there. I think that there were a lot of strategies discussed around what people are doing to activate their cities, number one. Number two, to really activate land in their cities. It's something that a lot of other countries tend to do a lot better than the U.S. We tend to do a lot of sales tax and revenue capture because we have a lot of debt structured in bonds and pensions and retirement, which a lot of other countries don't necessarily have. So they have some time to really think through what they can do with land, and we have been talking a lot about that, I think, this meeting. So anyway, I'm really excited to discuss that. There were many moments and times, I will just share, that I thought that I could have been sitting here at Mare Island. I've already had some discussions with staff about the structure of that event, the type of people that it brought to the event, and really the commitment, I think, to public service that was very, very present there. So I wanted to highlight that, appreciate this team, and please let all of you know that I will give you a fuller report, but I know that'll be in September, so I don't want it to be too far from mind.
Got you, and blessings. I'm glad you made it there and back. All right, guys, we'll adjourn this meeting at 8:46 p.m. You guys have a great night, and I'll see you in September.